Yeshua says, if you watch, I'll give you the meat and juice season. He also says, if you don't watch, I'm going to come upon you like a thief in the night. So, to the people that, first of all, you have to know what it means to watch. Then you have to actually do the work. So, there's a call in right now to watch. This is the call to love your neighbor as yourself, because watching over the souls of Israel, over the souls of God's people, Ezekiel 2 and 3, that's what Yeshua is referring to. That is the same thing as loving your neighbor as yourself. The Messiah came and elevated the law, the royal law, the law of love, to rebuke sin. That is the reason why Great Tribulation is coming, because people put off that the weightiest matter of the law, judgment. Therefore, the church is the modern day Pharisees that have left off the weightiest matters of the law. And then you've got the people in the churches, the proselytes, who are twice the children of hell than even the Pharisees. Think about that as well. The Pharisees at the time, Yeshua is saying that their proselytes are even worse than the Pharisees. So how much worse do you think the heart condition of the people in the churches are today? A lot worse. And the Christians are so hell-bent on, oh yeah, screw the Pharisees, we hate the Pharisees. They have a spirit of judgment. The Pharisees have a spirit of judgment. But we're commanded to righteously judge each other, which is the weightiest matter of the law. So people turn around to the John 17 group, the Malachi 3:16 group, the group of people that are doing what Paul said, doing what Yeshua said, to love their neighbor, to turn the battle to the gate, to reprove, rebuke with all long-suffering and doctrine, preaching the gospel with much contention. The people that do that, they say, oh, you're full of judgment. Don't judge me, love me. That's the same thing. The Messiah came so that we would rebuke the church. Come out of her, my people, and judge her. Because that's how you escape what is to come. We tell you what we know so that you know it too, so that you can be saved and then you can save others. That is quite literally the gospel. It's the gospel according to grace. The spirit of grace is God's spirit that convicts you of sin. So how do you separate grace from good works? Why do you tell the people preaching good works? We're told in Titus 2, the spirit of grace convicts you of your sin, and then it convicts you to rebuke other sins and be zealous about preaching those good works. The good works are the covenants of promise ordained of old in Ephesians 2. So when you walk in the covenants of promise and then teach them to the church, you are obeying the gospel. But the church turns around and says it's not works-based salvation. Yeah, we know, it's grace-based. So why aren't you listening to the conviction? Why aren't you listening to grace? We're not saying it's sacrificial law-based salvation. But then they don't know the difference between sacrificial law and the Holy Covenant. They don't know the difference between something that was temporary and something that's everlasting. And neither did the Torah movement. Come out of the church, my people. But then guess what happens when the Torah movement come out of the church? They get into their little churchy cliques again. And they start doing God's feasts because they have not the love of their neighbor in them. So they start to do God's feasts and they won't rebuke the church that they came out of because they're cowards. And no coward will be part of the elect. That's for sure. And this is all over prophecy. The Bible is playing out in real time. We are commanded to follow Yeshua, follow the Lamb wherever he goes. That means when you watch, when you love your neighbor, when you rebuke them, you are hated by them. And that's why the Beatitudes are written to you if that happens. For righteousness' sake. That's you preaching the righteousness of God, which is the 10 Commandments. Not your own standard of sin, like Romans 10 says that you're going to do. Paul says, I bear them record that they have a zeal of God, but it's not according to the knowledge of God. It's not according to God's commandments. It's according to their own standard of sin. It's according to their own self-righteous commandments that they say that we need to keep. They put this pressure on the people in the church and the world. Why do you think atheism is on the rise? Atheism is a product of the shit job that the church has done. They have not pushed the gospel to the four corners. They've pushed idolatry. And that's the sin that leads to death. And the outcome is in Romans 1. Read that. The Christians read Romans 1 and think it's about the atheists. That's why they go around rebuking atheists. And 1 Timothy 6 says, don't argue with atheists. It says, who are you to rebuke outside of the church? They're the fruit of the shit that you've done. So rebuke in the church. Come out of her, my people, and rebuke her. This is the gospel. This is the calling to be a watchman.